What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Center for Stingray Biology. I am all geared up with PPE today, and it's not because of the coronavirus. We are going to be working with some very dangerous stuff today, so stay tuned to find out what we are doing. Alright guys, let me take this off. It's getting kind of hot. And let me explain to you what we are doing today. Okay, let me bring you over here. As you guys all know, I like to run K3 movable media for my filtration system, and what I had noticed was the media was not moving very well. It's actually, I've already done some work on here to get it moving again, okay? But really what it is the air stones that were inside had become all clogged, okay? And the air bubbles was barely getting out. So I had to act immediately, because if the media is not moving, the biological is not functioning properly on my filtration. Alright, so that part was taken care of, and I didn't film that, but I'll explain to you what I did. I went into my backup supplies. I found a couple of air stones that weren't clogged, and I just threw it in there. So if you see, there's only two spots that is boiling, and I'll show you again. That's this one corner right here, and this one corner right here, but the rest of it is pretty much stagnant right now. All right, and I can show you from the side as well. You'll be able to see it there, right? Moving here, not moving there, but at least I got some activity going on. So what can we do to fix this problem? First I took out all the stones, I hosed it down, blasted it, cleaned it up. I've even soaked it in Clorox, in bleach, okay? I've done that before in the past, and it gave me good results, and it was able to clear up the stone. But for some reason, this time around, it didn't clean it. I did all of it, put it back, it didn't work, so then I had to get the backup stones, and now I did further research. Probably in the past, it was all caked up and blocked up with organic debris, which the Clorox can break down. But I'm guessing over time, because these stones, I have not changed them since I started this facility or set up this system, and I would say this system's been running almost 10 years, something like that. The stones probably has gotten the stones probably has what's the word? What am I trying to say? The stones have become clogged with calcium precipitate, and the only way to break that down, from what I read according to the manufacturer's directions, is to soak it in acid. So I have some acid here, and it's really old. It's phosphoric acid, 85%. Why do I have acid in my place? Okay, for all of you guys who do not know, before I was into stingrays, I was really heavily into freshwater discus. And for all you guys who know, who are familiar with discus, you have to play around with the pH, lower the hardness and all that. So I bought a whole bunch of phosphoric acid for preconditioning my water parameters before doing water changes, and I still have a whole bunch of this stuff left. That's why that bottle is like so old and nasty. Hopefully the acid still works. We are going to give it a try. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take these air stones here. Let me grab a couple of them here, not drop them. And I have this container. We're going to rest it in this container, and then we're going to soak it in the acid. I'm most likely going to soak it overnight, because these stones I have taken out for a while now, and it's all dried up. And yeah, they look fairly clean, because like I said, I already attempted using the bleach on it, so that's why they look whiter than what it should be. I'm going to do these guys first, and then let it sit overnight, and we're going to come back tomorrow and then swap it out with the stones I have there, and then clean the rest of the stones there, and let's see if it indeed works. I'm not a scientist, but if they say the acid will break down the calcium, who am I to argue with them? But we will soon prove it and find out. So let's get started with this, and as I'm doing this, I'm going to need both my hands. So I'm going to grab oil, put back on my protective gear, and I'm going to talk you through a few tips when you're playing around with stuff like this, because it is dangerous stuff. This is very harmful chemicals. I'll be right back and we'll get started. Alright guys, I have oil behind the camera. We're ready to go. Got my protective gear. So the number one trick, not trick, but tip that I have for you guys is when you, oh, you know what? I forgot my gloves. Oh, let me get my gloves. That's the one thing that we don't want, is to get these the acid on your hands. Okay, that would be a big no-no. If you ever get acid on your hands, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since high school chemistry, but I believe, was it baking soda will neutralize it, and then you want to wash with soap also to help neutralize the acid. But please correct me if I'm wrong, for all you chemists out there who would know the answer better than I would. But of course, I have my gloves on and I have my protective eye gear, and that should be enough. The key thing here is we're not going to be putting it into pure acid. That would be way too strong. So we're going to have water in here as well, and then I'm going to add the acid in it. Now, when I was researching this, the proper way of doing it, they mentioned something that was very important that I want to share with you guys as well. It is safe to add acid to water, but it's very dangerous to add water into acid. What it is it's just the concentration. By having a lot of water and adding acid to it, the acid is going to become diluted, right? But if you go the other way around, where water gets into a concentrated volume of acid, I think it's a very big mistake. It's like, boom, okay? That kind of dangerous. It might like fizzle up, get in your face, get in your eyes, and whatever, right? So now, okay, I put the water in here, guys, and now it's time to work with the acid. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I want to be careful what I touch. See, now I touch this cap, which now means my fingers are going to have acid on it as well. And you know, it's kind of a good example, like if we're trying to protect ourselves from coronavirus as well. You see, now I'm more conscious of this because I touched acid. But with an invisible enemy like the coronavirus, people sometimes forget, even though with the gear, you can get it on yourself and you just don't know. But so here I am, I'm gonna pour this. Now I'm gonna step back a little bit just in case, like sometimes when you pour something in, it can splash up. Oh, I didn't pour, you didn't tell me. I just remembered, I gotta protect my eyes. I just remembered that right when we talked about splashing. Okay, so here we go. Now, I don't have a definitive amount that I'm going to add. I'm just arbitrarily adding the acid in there. And I think that's probably good enough. And you can kind of see like there's fizzing going on. Come closer. You see this? There's already some reaction here. So maybe it was a little bit too much acid into the water. All right, but nothing is exploding. So I'm going to drop these guys in slowly so there's no splashing. Be careful, Oi. Because Oi doesn't have any protective gear on. Alright, and hopefully what we're doing here, we'll clean up these air stones, and tomorrow I will look at that, look at all that fizzing and bubbling. So something is going on. The acid is doing something, right? Which is good news, right? I think I'm gonna let it sit until tomorrow, or at minimum a couple of hours. Maybe I wouldn't want to leave acid sitting like this out in the open overnight. So I'll probably hang out a little bit and I don't know, maybe give it an hour or two, and then I'll dump this water and I'm going to pour it into the toilet, okay? So that it's going into more water to dilute it, and then I'm going to flush it. I don't think we should be pouring it into our sink unless you're going to let your sink run for a really long time. Alright, so this part is done, and we will come back later, clean up these stones, and get it back on the system and see if it indeed really cleaned up these stones. Alright? It's actually only been 15 or 20 minutes later, and I just decided to take one of these air stones out and clean it off and test it. It's still bubbling, right? But I took one out, I rinsed it off, I washed off all the acid, and I just held the stones in my mouth and give it a good blow. But anyways, the air came out really easily now. So I'm ready to do the rest of these, and then my delivery of shrimp came. So I got to put this away first before it melts, and then we will get back to this and I will show you what a big difference it is. So we already know it has worked, and so I'm excited to get it back on the system and get those other stones out so that my filtration can be at 100% again. All right, we'll be right back. All right, everybody, we're done putting away the shrimp. Thank you for being patient. So this next part, I gotta pull these air stones out of this acid, right? But I don't want to waste the acid just so quickly, because now that I know it works, I want to immediately also pull those stones out and dip it in this same acid, so that we don't have to dump this acid and get new acid and pour more acid down the drain, whatever. So I got a very important, useful scientific tool that will help us get these air stones out without me having to pour it out and without me having to touch it with my hands. You guys know what it is? It's the good old-fashioned chopstick. Here we go, guys. All right. So, see, it's not just good for chow mein, okay? Here we go. Okay. I'm gonna step back because I don't want to drop it, but check out my chopstick skills. Look at that. Can you guys do that? Grab such a big air stone. And of course, I'm staying back because I don't have all my gear on. And if I drop it, I wouldn't want that acid popping up in my face. Come on. Ah, there we go. Last one. Come on, don't fail me now. Trust the old chopsticks. There we go. All right, guys. So come on, we're gonna bring this over to the sink. I'm just gonna start running water on it and rinsing off all the acid. I'm not gonna like try to use the baking soda to neutralize the acid on the stones. I'm pretty sure that rinsing it off is gonna be good enough. If I get a little bit of acid in the water, it's not that big of a deal. My tap water pH here is about like 7.6, 7.8. So a little bit of acid in the water is probably not even gonna affect anything. Okay, but yeah, let me just soak this out, rinse it out, and then I'm gonna take the hose here and kind of like spray it off also. See, like this. Stand back, or I don't want you to splash. Okay, can I see it? So basically I'm gonna do this to every single stone, and at the same, after I get them all rinsed off nice and good, I'm also gonna go through the middle, the spout here, and get some water through it. Now I see water and bubbles coming through the stone already. Can you see it? On the stone? Get closer to the stone. You can see the bubbles coming out. So that means the acid did do its job and it cleared things up. Alright, so I'm going to continue rinsing these off, and then once that is done, we will go and put these things back on, alright? I got the stones all cleaned up right here. I washed off the acid and I've tested them. The air is flowing out of it pretty nicely now. So I'm going to put these back on. I'm going to take out the air pump manifold here and show you. Let's see, I got to do it slowly to release the air pressure. Pull this guy up. Okay. So this is the replacement air stone that I put there that works. All these other ones are still clogged. So I'm going to switch these out now and get the good ones on there, the ones that are nice and clean now. And hopefully it should work a lot better. And now I'm going to get these guys into the acid as well and clean them up and do the same thing. And then my K3 should be moving very nicely afterwards. How long going up? Just to fill you guys in on a little bit, yesterday I tested it and it was working okay, but some of the other ones weren't fully like unclogged, so I actually ended up leaving it soaking overnight, and it seems to be working a lot better today. So now it's all switched. Let me drop this thing back in there, and let's see how it's really going to move now. It needs a little bit of time to bubble up. So what's happening here is the air is not being diffused evenly. The problem is more air is now coming out of this one because the new air stone has less back pressure. So I think what I gotta do is I actually gotta get rid of this one. Where is it? Okay, it's right here. Oh, yeah, I have two in here. So what it is these two here, they're allowing more air to come out, so no air is being spread out to the other manifold. So let's see here. I get rid of this, and just for now, I think I have to plug this in so that it creates back pressure going the other way, and that way we can see how well it's really going to work. That's kind of the tough part with running multiple air stones, and I don't have a valve on each one, so it's hard to balance the pressure and how much air comes out of each stone. So actually, if I were to redesign this system, I would probably design it in a way that I can control each air stone. So let's see. Okay, so you see, now there's a lot more air. Now, I'll go over here. See, it's starting to work its way up. And my water level is a little bit low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go clean up and soak the rest of these stones. And I would say this was a successful fix of my filtration here. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more future episodes coming real soon, alright? Thank you guys.